How dare they dictate our nation's fate, as if Brazil were a mere pawn on the global chessboard, rather than a proud and sovereign nation with its own voice and destiny. Treating Brazil's sovereignty as a bargaining chip is not just an insult. It's a blatant disregard for the will of our people and the sacrifices made to build our democracy. This is not a minor incident. It's a coordinated assault on our democracy by foreign powers and their domestic allies, who seek to undermine our institutions for their own gain. The U.S. government, led by Donald Trump, has crossed a line, demanding our Supreme Court halt legal proceedings, an act that tramples on the very principles of justice and independence. Imagine if Brazil demanded the same of the U.S. It's unthinkable, a scenario that would be met with outrage and swift condemnation. This is a direct attack on the institutions that form the bedrock of our society, our courts, our laws, and our right to self-determination. Brazilian politicians lobbying for foreign sanctions against their own country is more than opposition. It borders on treason, betraying the trust of those they were elected to serve. This is about loyalty to the Brazilian people and our right to self-govern, to decide our own future without outside interference or coercion. We are being tested, provoked, and threatened by those who underestimate our resolve and unity as a nation. Our response must be a unified, unequivocal rejection of all foreign interference, standing together as one people, regardless of our differences. Nossa soberania não é moeda de troca. It must be our rallying cry, a reminder that Brazil's future belongs to Brazilians and no one else. On July 9, 2025, President Trump issued a stunning threat, a 50% surcharge on all Brazilian exports to the United States. This move sent shockwaves through diplomatic and economic circles, as it was not just about trade, it was a direct attempt to pressure Brazil's government at a critical moment. The demand was clear and unprecedented. Halt all legal proceedings against former President Bolsonaro or face severe economic consequences. The message was unmistakable. Interfere with our justice system or pay the price. This is not diplomacy. It's outright blackmail. It's an attempt to bully our judiciary, undermine our democracy, and treat Brazil as nothing more than a vassal state, subservient to foreign interests. But our courts are independent, and these cases are conducted with full transparency, strictly following Brazilian law and due process. No foreign power has the right to dictate our legal proceedings. For a foreign leader to demand the suspension of justice is an insult to every Brazilian citizen, to our history, and to the sacrifices made for our democracy. This ultimatum is part of a disturbing global trend, an effort to delegitimize and weaken our institutions, to sow doubt and division within our society. In Washington, Minister Mauro Vieira's response was resolute and unwavering. He made it clear to the world, Brazil bows to no one, and our sovereignty is not up for negotiation. Our justice system and our national dignity are not for sale, not to any country, no matter how powerful. If we yield now, we set a dangerous precedent, not just for Brazil, but for all nations that value independence and the rule of law. This foreign pressure on Brazil's democracy is not simply an external force imposed upon us. In fact, it was invited in by certain Brazilians themselves, who saw an opportunity to use international influence for their own agendas. The Bolsonarista lobby, led by figures like Eduardo Bolsonaro, has actively sought U.S. intervention, going so far as to portray our democratic institutions as oppressive or tyrannical in the eyes of foreign governments. Their lobbying efforts directly contributed to U.S. sanctions against Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes, an unprecedented attack on our judicial sovereignty, orchestrated not by outsiders, but by those within our own borders. These lobbyists are not defending a genuine ideology or principle. Instead, they are undermining Brazil's institutions and weakening our nation for their own political gain, regardless of the long-term consequences. They export disinformation abroad, distorting the truth and framing our legitimate defense of democracy as authoritarianism, all to create a false pretext for foreign interference in our internal affairs. This alliance with foreign interests represents a new and dangerous threat to our sovereignty, one that is more insidious because it is fueled by domestic actors. When domestic factions appeal to foreign powers for support, it erodes the trust and unity that are essential for a strong and independent nation. We must recognize this lobby for what it truly is: an anti-Brazilian force, willing to sacrifice our national interests for their own benefit. Their loyalty lies not with Brazil, but with their own ideology and ambitions, putting our country's future at risk. Why now? Is this about justice for an ally or a calculated move for US control? A destabilized, dependent Brazil benefits American interests. Less competition, more leverage over our resources. Brazil's Amazon, oil, minerals, and agribusiness are strategic assets. The tariff threat is a tool to force concessions and weaken our bargaining power. The Trump-Bolsonaro alliance is about more than friendship. It's a shared political project. Preventing Bolsonaro's prosecution protects their global movement. This is not about democracy, it's about control and installing compliant regimes. We must question the true motives behind this unprecedented pressure. Brazil is a resilient democracy, tested by crisis but standing strong. Our institutions, from the TSE to the STF, operate under our constitution, not foreign approval. The claim that we need outside guardians is a denial of our history and strength. Legal proceedings against those who attacked our democracy are acts of accountability, not persecution. Our sovereignty is embodied in our independent judiciary and legitimate elections. Foreign demands to compromise these pillars attack the entire state. Minister Mauro Vieira's words reaffirm our commitment. Only Brazilians decide Brazil's future. Allowing interference now opens the door to endless manipulation. Our democracy may be imperfect, but it is ours, and not for sale. A 50% export surcharge is a loaded gun at Brazil's economy, threatening jobs and livelihoods. The US is a major trading partner. Thousands of companies and workers would be devastated overnight. This blackmail aims to turn Brazilians against their own institutions by inflicting economic pain. Sectors like agribusiness, aviation, and manufacturing would be hit hardest, with ripple effects across the economy. This is not targeted. It's a broad attack designed for maximum pressure. Succumbing to this threat would invite perpetual blackmail in the future. We must resist, diversify partnerships, and strengthen our domestic market. Defending sovereignty now is an investment in long-term freedom. Brazil must not be intimidated. We stand at a crossroads, facing foreign interference and domestic betrayal. Trump's ultimatum is a colonial dictate. The Bolsonarista lobby's actions are a betrayal of Brazil. This is a moment for clarity, courage, and unity. Every Brazilian has a stake in this fight. It's not partisan, it's national. We must mobilize, support our institutions, and reject the false narrative that accountability is persecution. Let's make it clear. Brazil's sovereignty is non-negotiable. The future is being written now. Let this be the chapter where we stood firm. For Brazil, for our democracy, for our sovereignty.